a registered sex offender in Nebraska. Well, you pretend that homeless people, because they're easy to victimize, and you know that you can just call them mentally ill. You know that there's a lot of hatred against the homeless. You get to see in the media how the media has a bias against the homeless, how the police have a bias against the homeless. You say it's not our right to pretend that every Mexican out there is a thief or a drug addict, but it's perfectly acceptable for you to do that to the homeless. A black man in the United States, depending on which numbers you're believing, a black man in the United States has a 1 in 283,000 chance of being killed by a police officer every year. And of course, that depends on whose numbers you accept, because, of course, the government ain't gonna pick up all of that. They're gonna try to brush off as much as they can, like the crimes against me. Those should be added to the statistics. The number of crimes that have been committed against me, the frequency of them, and also how I have been victimized, despite the fact that there are laws that are written that are supposed to protect me from these things. As a homeless person, I have a 1 in 1,000 chance. 1 out of every 1,000 homeless people every year will be killed by a police officer. 1 in 1,000. There are over twice as many homeless people killed every year as there are black people. Now, when you look at the population size of 60 million black people versus 500,000 homeless people, I mean, you're looking at a pretty significant difference there. Black people have a 120 times the population size. 120 times the population size of the homeless. And yet the homeless are far more likely to be murdered by the police every year. Such a small population. You are more likely to disappear as a homeless person than you are as a pretty white girl like Gabby Petito, or a Native American girl like Selena Not Afraid. Far more likely. But you don't care about us. The laws don't apply to us. You give us excuses. We must want it, need it, choose it, or deserve it. We chose this, right? That's your excuse. And see, that's one of the things that I have taken many screenshots of, is people telling me, somebody else said that you chose this. Oh, somebody else. You won't look at evidence, but you'll fucking pass judgment on me and use what somebody else said as an excuse not to keep your word. Well, you took fucking advantage of me, dummy. Somebody else said. Well, who is that somebody else? You gonna cite your sources or talk out your ass? I cite my sources. Who is it that the information about Andrew Witcher molesting his stepdaughter, who is it that that information came from? Amy Witcher, his wife. The conversations between her and I show that both her and I were Andrew's victims, not the other way around. It also shows she was trying to leave him and possibly hook up with somebody else, a guy named John. she needed help because she was getting rid of him. She needed him to leave. She needed her children to be safe, and she needed herself to be safe. And there was a lady who was going to help to get Amy safe so she could turn those things in, so she could do that. But that lady jumped the gun. And I tried to explain to Amy what was going down and that she needed to turn it in. She got angry at me because she'd already been in trouble for child abuse before. One of the other options that she had because she was getting rid of Andrew was her ex-husband, who had molested her kids. On my way there, she let me know Andrew was throwing a tantrum. Man, that guy did such fucked up shit. But of course she loves him. Why did Natalie's mother and ex-stepmothers allow Ted Bollinger to get away with raping her for years? Because they loved him. They don't love him now, do they? They're scared shitless of him. But meanwhile, because of bias that you want to pretend doesn't exist, discrimination that you want to pretend doesn't exist, even though it's out here blatant and clear on my YouTube channel for all of you to see. It's not a police officer's job to make excuses for your predators. When they make excuses for your predators, that is an intimidation tactic. And they're all taught to do that. They teach their cops how to threaten, harass, and intimidate people. How to send somebody into a fucking mental breakdown so that their communication skills are diminished. And then to twist that person's words into something they're not. There are people I threaten to kill back in order to get a court date, in order to show the evidence, in order to keep people safe. These people who claim that they would help me, their excuses for not coming forward was always safety related or laziness related. These people are telling me that their kids are actually being threatened. Meanwhile, predators like Leslie Snell are pretending that their kids were threatened. I gotta find somebody who can make the 911 call with me and explain that this is an unsafe situation, that I am the victim, that there is evidence, and that the law enforcement community does need to take a look. But without someone there with me, it's not taken seriously. When Kara went in with me, those people at the DHS office sort of took it seriously, almost. Enough to get me started and on the right track. But the next time I went in there, it was a different lady that was in there. She didn't know what was going on, and I had to explain it to her, and I, of course, make sure I record everything. But I tell these mandated reporters what's going on, and I don't get to explain it because they're too busy interrupting me. Too busy telling me it's not their job when the law clearly states that it is. How it is written, it is very clearly stated what DHS's job is for. When they keep sending me to these other agencies that can't do anything, they're breaking the law by doing that. When it comes to someone who is developmentally disabled having to go in and try to turn in abuse against them, that's especially harsh because they make you go to the mental health people. That's who you're supposed to turn that into. And they tell you it's not their job every fucking time, every single time. But that's not the only disability that I have. And that's not the only abuse happening. That's not the only thing that is being taken advantage of. Now, these people, the mental health people, don't look at evidence. They absolutely refuse. And then they're going to make a decision based on what the police told them, based on what your predators told them, based on what other people tell them. They're not going to look at evidence. If someone is predatory towards you, like the Hood River Police Department, what did these guys do here? The police department here had already been predatory. I needed Monica to be there to verify evidence, and that's the thing. He made excuses for my predators. Made excuses. No, it is not your job to speculate. It is your job to listen to the fucking victim and fucking investigate. I told you Hood River wouldn't do their jobs. That they threatened, harassed, and intimidated me on multiple occasions. Or at least I fucking tried. But how do you get to do that when they're too busy interrupting you to make excuses? Meanwhile, there hasn't been any effort made on their behalf to collect evidence. And they want to pretend like it's a civil thing. No, this isn't. These are criminal acts that have been committed against me. Many of them are felonies. Because I am disabled, none of this is civil. Literally none of it is civil. These people are abusing an at-risk adult. None of that is civil. Those are all, literally all of them, criminal acts. Every one of them. If it would be a civil act against your neighbor, but your neighbor is disabled, at that point, yes, the state is legally obligated to step in, and they have not. They have made zero effort to assist me in getting the evidence to where it needs to go. They have done everything that they can to make excuses for my predators, to look the other way, to not look at evidence even when it's right there in fucking front of them. And the fact that I have repeatedly recorded these things happening and recorded them on YouTube, I need someone to sit with me and help me to organize it and get it to where it needs to go, because I cannot do so under the terms and conditions with which I have to live because of the consequences of that abuse. When you go to a mandated reporter and they say it's not their fault, now it is your fault. It's your fault that that person is going to get away with it. The situation with that young woman, you know, you'd think that one of these fucking pieces of shit would care. I have told clergy, I have told police officers, I told Lewis, and I told his wife Cheryl. I have told dozens and dozens of people about the human trafficking information that was sent to me about Ted Bollinger and an underage girl. With his history, this needs to be taken seriously. And then they tell me to call these places that I have already tried to call, but I have had to do so alone. And they have sent me to people who have already been predatory towards me and attempted to threaten, harass, and intimidate me. Repeatedly, criminal acts have been committed against me for trying to turn in predators. And I'm told to go to businesses like CARE. It's a business. They're about making profits and getting paid. They don't try to help you turn in your predators. They tell you it's not their job. And when you are sent to mental health, why are you being sent to a mental health business that is going to say that they can't do anything? They can't look at evidence. They're mandatory reporters. Yes. But at this point, we need to sort through all the reporters that I've already spoken to, and there are hundreds, and we need to make sure that if I talk to another mandated reporter, it is not a mandated reporter who has already broken the law. In the state of Oregon, allegations of abuse against a disabled adult, you have 24 hours to turn it in. Sorry, wrong state. Here in Oregon, you have to turn it in immediately. Their hotline is open 24/7. The problem is that when a disabled adult has to turn it in themselves, they are blown off every single time. They tell us to do things that we are not capable of doing for ourselves, primarily because of what? Because of labels that they put on us when we try to turn them in. Labels that they put on us. You try to turn in a bad cop, he calls you a criminal or a thief or crazy. Claims that you're mentally ill, tells people you're schizophrenic. Drags you to a hospital for trying to turn them in and tells the hospital that you're schizophrenic. Meanwhile, there is evidence from a woman who is qualified to diagnose schizophrenia. She is obviously capable of diagnosing bipolar disorder. She is obviously capable of diagnosing PTSD. She says, I do have PTSD. I am not bipolar. I am not schizophrenic. I am not delusional. And of course, I'm not psychotic. But these are my predators' excuses for the crimes that they have committed, or the things that they have said, in order to try to convince you guys not to fucking look and to do nothing. And they did this to my friends and to my family, but no biggie, my friends and family did the same thing. Since when did ignoring abuse ever stop it, you fucking stupid pieces of shit? But then I'm told that I need to go to the back of the bus because we're fighting for black rights. I need to go to the back of the bus because we're fighting for women's rights. I need to go to the back of the bus because I'm fighting for because we're fighting for native rights. Well, you know what? I'm fighting for all of their rights too. But I'm not gonna fucking shuffle along with any of their racist narratives. This stuff is primarily happening to black people, huh? No, homeless and disabled. This stuff is primarily happening to native women, correct? No, primarily homeless males. And disabled males. You discredit us immediately. And the way that you cut us off and talk over us and make excuses for our predators shows it loud and fucking clear. It doesn't matter if you say it with a smile on your face. It's still a fucking crime. Where else can you get a job and just not do your job? With these businesses like Care, yes, it's against the law for them to not do their job. But what happens if they don't do their job? Nothing. There's no fucking consequences. literally, when a disabled person tries to turn in the crimes against them, they're told to go to the cops. The cops will blow them off every fucking time that they go in alone, unless you're a pretty fucking white girl like Natalie Bollinger. My God, everybody listen to her. Nobody will look at any of the fucking evidence that it's fucking bullshit. Nobody will look at any of the evidence of the efforts that I made to try to get help stopping that abuse. I'm trying to find a familiar face, and I'm sorry my car keeps dying, but my clutch has got a 2-inch push right now. I don't know what happened. I woke up this morning and it hates me. I don't have the money for anything. And that's the thing, is that I spend all of that money fucking going to all the places that I'm told to go to try to get help, and at the end of the day there's no fucking help, and I am out of gas and out of money and no help. And the people who said they would help me, they didn't show up on time or at all, didn't call, and I understand the situation surrounding that. But at the same time, the way the cops play it, in that scenario, we have seen time and again. If you don't come forward with me, they get to make any excuse they want, and it's magically true, because it was not, of course, dependent upon the evidence or the witnesses. The law ignored the law and went for bias. The media ignored the law and went for bias. And you guys get to see how heavy in the media they want to paint us homeless people as horrible fucking monsters. You blanket all of us as child molesters and rapists, and most of us are victims of that more. You have no idea how horrible it is to have your things stolen by a fucking police officer because they hate the homeless too. They're not following the law, they're following bias. And they know that if they break the law, you don't have the money for a civil lawyer, so they skip investigating themselves and go straight to, well, you need to get a civil lawyer. You can get a lawyer when you get out. But the thing is, by that time, they've done crimes against you and abused their power that you are literally, all you can think about is fucking killing yourself. Natalie and her friends and fucking family for a whole year before she was fucking killed. Help. Or went to my family for help. They were too fucked up on drugs or alcohol, or too busy trying to get fucking laid. Yeah, they'll help me, but I gotta pay them a fucking whole shit ton of money that I don't fucking have. And then by the time, of course, the people are able to actually take the time, I don't have the money to go do any of that stuff anymore because I spent it all trying to do it the first 3, 5, 12, 30, 50, or even 100 times that they were gonna. Each one of those times cost me money. Every one of those times, it cost me time. It cost me resources that I don't fucking have. Coors! Alright, I don't see Dallas, but I do see Coors, and I'm gonna go give her some lovin's. Right from the very start, I outlined all of this. I knew exactly what bias I was up against. I knew exactly what kind of situations I was going to deal with, having to move from parking lot to parking lot to parking lot. And you guys, your fucking advice is to fucking move along, move along. Never, ever do you try to actually help me to turn in my predators to where it needs to go. Hey, Coors. Oh, good girl. How you doing? Oh, that's my phone. Yes, ma'am. I'll see you in Bitcourse. Thing is, I need people to actually take it seriously, and they're not going to until they look at the evidence. They're not going to look at the evidence until they take it seriously, and it's a catch-22. If this is happening to any one of your family members, if you would allow this to happen, if you would look away the way that my family has, or go out of your way to cut me off from getting help and then pretend like you tried to help me. No, you didn't. You took advantage of me, and it was fucking horrible. And I tried to tell y'all that my family was trying to convince my sister not to help. And I told you that. And of course, as always, you pretend I'm making every goddamn thing up. No, I was there. I was there when my family was fucking doing it. I was there when my family members came up to me and told me that my mom was mad that I was there. At my grandma's funeral. You know who made sure that my grandma was buried? Me. I had to finish the job. Where was my family? Off eating, having dinner. But I gotta make these calls alone. Yeah, it's probably gonna be more than one call for them to give us the runaround. The problem is that that's why you need to put your fucking foot down. These are mandated reporters. You need to tell them what you fucking know. When you don't tell them what you know and they're giving you the runaround and telling them it's somebody else's fucking job, they're all mandated reporters, which means it's all their jobs. Every fucking one of them. From a police officer to somebody working at the Department of Health and Human Services to people at the hospital, they're all fucking mandated reporters. If you make allegations of that crime that was committed, these are mandated reporters. Yes, they have to do their job. If they did not do their job, like many people such as Brandon Ratner claim, then that needs to be fucking turned in. You have to turn it in with me, because if I go in by myself, it will be ignored. I will be blown off. They will fucking lie to me about what the law fucking says. Thank goodness I looked the laws up, but then you guys who say you can't help me because you're not lawyers, then magically you become pocket lawyer and lie to me about what the law says because you don't want to tell the fucking truth. And you don't want to tell the truth because the truth shows that you fucked up. There's a big difference between saying that you care and showing it. There's a big difference between saying you will go in and help turn these crimes into the cops and actually doing it. The people who are involved in the situation and the evidence that shows that the narrative sold by the fucking Bollingers and their nut jobs is fucking lies. There's a lot of witnesses to it all over the fucking country. But you won't look at any of that fucking evidence, will you? No, we're focused on black people right now. Sean needs to go to the back of the bus. We're focusing on women right now. Sean needs to go to the back of the bus. We're focused on Native Americans right now. Sean needs to go to the back of the bus. How about we focus on police killing people instead of just when it's blacks? How about we focus on all missing people? See, here's the thing, all of those groups, the homeless fall into those categories too, except on a much higher rate. As a homeless person, you are a lot more likely to be raped. As a homeless person, you're a lot more likely to be incarcerated. You're a lot more likely to be murdered. You're a lot more likely to be stolen from. And then, of course, your predators get to play on public bias. The news media tries to paint these homeless people as people who won't get a job, won't try. I had a job the whole time I was fucking homeless until I got fucking disabled. And then you guys just pretend like I'm fucking lazy. You say it's my fault that I'm being harmed over other people's fucking lies. That's victim shaming and blaming. Telling someone you should have done this or you should have done that. Did you have my options? Do you know what fucking options I had? Do you know if I actually did what you're claiming I did or not? The crimes that I did commit. Why is it that I committed those crimes? And why did I admit to them? Why did I admit to the crimes that I committed? For the same reason that if there was a baby locked in a fucking car on a hot day with all the windows rolled up and nobody around, no supervision, no fucking adult there, nobody responsible for that child is gonna fucking die if I don't break the window. You goddamn right I'm gonna break the window, and you goddamn right the reason why is important. It's not because I'm mentally ill. It's because I'm being abused, and you're using mentally ill as an excuse not to look, not to do anything about the abuse. It's not your job, right? Well, if you can do it for others, then yes, it is your job. The fact that so many of the predators that I turned in, and was called schizophrenic by them and their co-workers, only for them to end up in prison for doing those exact same things to others. Yes, there needs to be a fucking review of what's going on, but it has to be recorded. I gotta run around and get all of these fucking resources. I gotta spend a bunch of time and money running around to get this and that and the other, and then I'm told, oh, well, you need to try to take your mind off of it. Don't you have a fucking hobby or something? Yeah, I got all sorts of hobbies. They take a place to fucking do it. My hobbies take up time, but they don't pay me. They cost money. When therapists say, oh, well, you should spend some of your money to do something for yourself. You know, you should have yourself a clothing budget. You know, I'm fucking broke. The money that I get every month for disability, I don't get it every month. It keeps getting fucked around with me because I don't have help in person. My disability money never would have been taken away if I'd have had help in person. My predators never would have gotten away if I'd have had help in person. But you guys, what you want to call help, no. No, you tell me that you're going to help look at evidence and help me to turn it in, and I get there, and you want to throw a sandwich in my face and call that good, and then pretend I'm ungrateful for the fucking sandwich? Well, guess what? Now I am ungrateful for the fucking sandwich. Because you're now pretending that the sandwich is the help that you promised. And it isn't. If I'd have had the help that you promised, I never would have needed your fucking sandwich. I could have gotten my own. You know how much it sucks when you're telling mandated reporters about the abuse that you're going through, and they're listening to your fucking predators, and they're refusing to look at evidence? Do you have any idea how fucked up it is when your predators get to sit there and fucking intimidate you while you're trying to turn them in? Nationwide, these things are illegal as fuck, but only if you care. Meanwhile, if you don't fucking care, and you waste my fucking time. See, that's the thing about Kara and Jason and all them. If they understood how serious the situation it is, Jason would have taken a day off of hunting. I'm sure he would have, but getting him to look at it and listen and understand it. You know, it turns into story time with a lot of people. I understand that they have disabilities of their own, and I do acknowledge them. And when they need reparations made because they have those disabilities or because they have other things that they have to do, I am understanding of it. But then are people understanding when I have that same situation going on? No, they're not. I'm told that I chose it, that it's my fault. For the cops here to repeatedly victim shame and blame is certainly not acceptable, and for literally none of these mandated reporters to do their jobs, to allow these things to happen to me over and over and over, and force me to go to the internet with it because they're not going to do their fucking jobs. This is fucked up. But there has to be civilian oversight. They went out of their way, and so did the public, go out of their way to destroy evidence and help my predators get away, to cut me off from communicating with my loved ones and my friends, cut me off when it made a difference from letting them know what was going on. And so they just ran with their assumptions. They never found out what was going on. And then they wanted to judge me based on their assumptions and what they heard. Did you ever look at the fucking evidence? Did you ever try? Did you ever ask? No, you tell me that we got to focus on women. We got to focus on blacks. We got to focus on natives. Why don't we focus on the crimes? You know, there's black people who go missing too, not just Native Americans. But then again, when a white homeless person disappears, you don't give a fuck. When a black homeless person disappears, you don't give a fuck. When a when a Native American homeless person disappears, you don't give a fuck. BLM doesn't care about the people themselves. They just care about the numbers they can use to sell a bullshit narrative. Most of those numbers come from homeless black people. While they will at least in some part acknowledge that, they don't acknowledge the black people that this is happening to the way that they acknowledge Zaid Atkinson. BLM is a racist hate group selling a racist narrative. BLM is not your friend. You can fight for the rights of your black brothers and sisters without having to join a fucking hate group. You can help your white brothers and sisters without having to join a racist hate group. And when you start selling a racist narrative, a racist narrative that gets other victims victimized further, when you sell a false narrative that makes it so that other victims are not heard, they're not the right color, they're not the right gender. You can't be a victim of sexual assault. You're a male. You must be one of the sexual assaulters. You have a penis. This is what we're sold. No racially motivated hate crime could be ever even conceived of being committed against you because you're white. No black person would ever hold a grudge against white people and take it out on whichever white person they think is easiest to get away with doing it to. Of course not. You want to sell the narrative that black people can't be racist, only white people are racist. Are you fucking crazy? Yes, you are. Your daddy got busted selling crack in the Bronx? It don't matter what color he is. He was busted selling crack in the Bronx. He's guilty of selling crack. A missing person is a missing person. Even if none of you care about them. Most of the homeless people that are on the streets, they're on the streets because nobody cares about them because they told on their predators. Sure, it's illegal for these people to do these things to us. But who's going to stop them? Who's going to step in and say, hey, just because you call him mentally ill does not mean the crime wasn't fucking committed. Just because you call Jamie mentally ill doesn't mean that it's okay to stalk her and punch her in the back of the head like that dude in Hood River did. And you get to hear mandated reporters like Marcus Ibarra literally committing a felony against me and against Jamie. Because at that point, not only is he not doing his job as a mandated reporter, he's now taking part. He's now taking an active role in perpetuating abuse against me. He is now taking an active role in looking the other way. Taking an active role in lying about what the law is. And to this day, what he said that he was going to do, on day one, he still has not done. He never once attempted to call me and have a conversation with me about this. It was all in typing while he went out of his way to play fucking victim. Went out of his way to type bullshit at me and went out of his way to take my words completely out of context. And as a result, I exposed him on YouTube because, of course, with none of these mandated reporters actually helping me to turn it in, them pretending that they're going to, but they refuse to look at the evidence. And that right there is why the predators get. Did you take a look? Is it my fault that you refused? No, it's not. It is recorded that you refused to look. But you, having a position of power, can just call me mentally ill and then nobody will look. The fact is, I need people to speak up about what they know. In places like Nebraska, I'm lucky there's a lot of people that, well, if I get one person to do their fucking job, just one, a lot of people in Nebraska are going to be going to jail and paying some pretty expensive fines. Quite a few of them will be going to prison. problem is the people that I need to run into and hope that they have time in order to make these calls to 911. I'm not seeing them here. I didn't even see Lewis or Cheryl. I'm not seeing Jared. No Dallas. I'm not seeing Scott or Leela. Found Scott's dog though. And his truck. Or no, Dallas's dog and truck. And then we also stopped by Cheryl and Lewis's vans. It's Friday, so there's no feed today here in town, so we gotta scrounge for ourselves. The thing is, none of these people are taking it seriously. Didn't actually take a look, or of course there's issues with the computer now. And the older it gets and the longer this takes, the more likely it is that all of that evidence is going to get lost. A lot of evidence was lost because I did what people who were supposed to help me turn it in told me to do. Anyway, I'm going to park and find a place to pee.
Fine, right there.
Yes, sir. Well, I suppose I should probably take advice to give me and fly a sign right there. I'm pretty close to the line on this side, but I kind of had to be because the person on that side is parked a little close. And I probably should fly a sign. Those people aren't there. Maybe they'll be there in a bit. Good to be with you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and no victim left behind. Also remember that you don't have to subscribe to BLM to care about black folks and their rights and to want to put a stop to the illegal actions that are happening to them, because as much as I'm not happy with BLM and the racist narratives that they're selling in many situations, the fact is the racism is real. I grew up in the system. I don't have the luxury of pretending it's not.